Hello there, hope you're doing well and feeling happy. Let's begin with a young woman named Frida, who aspires to be an animal-themed nail artist but works as a waitress. She currently posts pictures of her nail art on social media, and then happens to meet a man named Slater King, who is a tech billionaire. Slater publicly asks for forgiveness for unspecified inappropriate behavior and announces his resignation as CEO of his company. He also reveals that he has bought an island where he grows his own food and raises chickens. Frida turns out to be a fan of him and has a crush on him, starts searching for more information about him on the internet. Furthermore, Frida is frustrated with her monotonous life and screams that she needs a vacation. Days later, she and her roommate Jess arrive at Slater's annual party to work as waitresses. Her boss confronts Frida about her actions at last year's party when she tried to talk to Slater. She apologizes, explaining how he approached her and complimented her nails, but her boss advises her to stay invisible this time. The two girls notice how lavish the event is, with wealthy guests dressed in their finest. While at work, Frida occasionally spies on Slater. Later, Jess takes her to the dressing room, where she is smuggled in 2 party dresses for her to wear. Afterwards, they begin to wander around the party, mingling with the VIPs. Frida soon notices Slater in the distance and begins to walk towards him, but accidentally bumps into a waiter and falls to the ground. In this awkward moment, a hand reaches out to help her, which turns out to be Slater's. After the two introduce themselves, Slater decides to introduce her to his social circle, starting with his therapist, Dr. Rich. Frida jokes that he should blink twice if she is in danger, which Dr. Rich does, and they laugh. Slater then introduces her to his childhood friend, Cody, his bodyguard, Stan, his right-hand man, Vic, and his girlfriends Heather and Camilla, a college graduate, Lucas, a DJ named Tom, and a reality TV star named Sarah. Afterwards, Frida's night turns into a whirlwind of laughter and booze, and she is very happy to be hanging out with her crush. However, his assistant, Stacy, arrives and says that they have to leave for the island. The two say their sad goodbyes, and Slater proceeds to leave. However, while Frida is talking to Jess about her experience, he unexpectedly returns and invites them to accompany him to the island, and they accept. In the next scene, Slater's entire group, except for Dr. Rich, boards a private jet and flies to their destination. When they arrive, Frida is shocked by the grandeur of the place. Stacy then shows up to collect everyone's phones, so that their vacation will not be disrupted by work problems. Everyone agrees without hesitation, but Jess is a little skeptical and hands her over. Slater then takes Frida to her room, which is filled with clothes for her to wear. After he leaves, she takes a bath and puts on a wonderful perfume she finds in the room. As she is about to change, an old maid suddenly arrives, looks at her as if she knows her, and calls her Red Rabbit. Frida is confused and asks what he means, but the woman leaves the room without answering. Later, Frida goes out and meets Jess, who is surprised to find them dressed as they were invited at the last minute. Frida dismisses this as a perk of being rich. The two then meet the rest of the girls, all dressed alike. Neither of them finds it strange, and they proceed to join the guys at the pool. While there, Frida continues to exchange glances with Slater, but is soon approached by Sarah. She tries to flirt with him, but he doesn't seem interested and focuses on Frida. Slater then gives Frida a tour of the place, showing her a rare flower called Desideria, which is what their perfume is made from. He also reveals that the island is infested with eyelash snakes, which the workers are trying to eradicate. He then opens up, admitting that he remembers almost nothing about his life before the age of 10. This is why he visits Dr. Rich, who specializes in repressed memories. Frida finds this strange, but Slater explains that forgetfulness can sometimes be a gift. As they continue their tour, they encounter Stacy, the assistant, who is carrying several red gift bags. Later that night, everyone gathers in the dining room, where candles are lit everywhere because the generator is broken. While eating, Frida accidentally stains her dress. Vic's right-hand man then asks her what she does for a living, and she replies that she is just trying to figure it out. Vic is missing a little finger, so Slater jokes about how he lost it, but Vic doesn't respond. Instead, he pulls out a small bottle of ecstasy. After drinking it, the group gets high, and they start laughing and having fun. Everything seems to be going well, but when Frida goes to bed, she notices that the stain on her dress has disappeared. She finds it strange but doesn't think much of it. Over the next few days, they drink champagne without limits and swim in the pool during the day, followed by a lavish dinner and drugs at night. One evening, Slater notices the scar next to Frida's eye and asks what happened, but she claims she has no idea. He then asks her about her nails. Frida responds by explaining her small brand, Enelmals, A combination of the words animal and nails. The answer seems to satisfy him, but he suddenly apologizes and leaves. He leaves in such a hurry that he forgets his vaporizer. As Frida watches the vaporizer later, she notices dirt under her nails, shocking her. The next morning, when Frida goes to return the vaporizer, she sees Slater leaving her therapy session with Dr. Rich. Frida greets the doctor, reminding him of when Slater introduced them at the party, as well as the joke about blinking twice. The doctor nervously agrees, before quickly leaving the mansion with a red gift bag. One night, everyone is dancing and having fun, until they hear a scream. It turns out that Jess has been bitten by a snake. Slater kills the snake with a bottle, assuring her that the venom is not fatal. However, she starts to panic for some reason and leaves the party. When Frida approaches her, Jess says she wants her phone back and wants to leave. She claims that something strange is happening here, and that these people are strange. But Frida refuses to leave, claiming that for the first time in her life, she does not feel invisible, and this is the vacation they have always wanted. Eventually, Jess agrees as well and decides to stay on the island. Later, while staying alone, Jess suffers from a nosebleed. The next morning, Frida starts her day by taking a shower and putting on the same perfume. She then goes for a walk where she comes across a red bag lying on the floor in front of a room. Out of curiosity, Frida enters the room and discovers a large number of red bags inside. At that moment, the old maid arrives and starts calling her Red Rabbit again. She also gives Frida a strange green liquid, which she takes without hesitation. However, the maid quickly points to some snake remains and reveals that the liquid is actually venom extracted from all the snakes they have caught, and Frida leaves the room in a state of agitation. In the next scene, she has a strange dream in which she sees Jess holding a knife and asking her to hide it. When Frida wakes up, she does not feel well, and her appearance attracts Sarah's attention. Lucas then shows up with a bruised eye, but no one notices much of it, just as no one notices Jess's absence. After breakfast, the guys are excited to go fishing, while the girls decide to stay. One of the girls pulls out Jess' lighter, prompting Frida to ask about her. Surprisingly, none of them seem to recognize or remember anyone named Jess. A worried Frida then rushes into the room where Jess is staying, only to find the furniture piled high as if she had never been there. Frida then heads to her room, where she finds a knife behind a mirror. At that moment, Sarah appears holding a lighter with Jess's name on it. Frida confirms that Jess was here, but Sarah says that she would remember if someone else was present. Frida then talks about the strange events that have happened, such as how she always wakes up with dirt under her fingernails. Sarah also shows up with a bruise on her arm and has no idea how she got it. Additionally, she admits that in this group, she only knows Cody, who approached her at a coffee shop and invited her to the island. This makes them realize that they are somehow being manipulated by these men who are manipulating their minds. Then, Frida remembers how Slater once mentioned that forgetfulness is a gift. They then enter the room with several red bags, speculating that the perfume must contain a substance that makes them forget their memories. Frida also mentions that she started remembering some things after drinking the snake venom that the maid gave her. Frida soon discovers more snake venom in the room and gives it to Sarah to try. They then decide to mix it with tequila and give it to Heather and Camilla, hoping that it will help them regain their memories as well. Stacy soon joins them and also consumes a few drinks. The girls then inform that the men will be back soon. Frida realizes that time is running out and decides to search for the phones inside and asks Sarah to scream if the men arrive. Soon after, Sarah begins bleeding from the nose, just like Jess did before she disappeared. When the men arrive, Slater asks where Frida is, and Sarah simply replies that she is getting ready in her room. Meanwhile, Frida enters Slater's private villa, breaking into a locked cupboard to look for cell phones. She manages to find them, but then hears Sarah screaming and quickly hides everything. At this point, a box falls and Frida is shocked to see several Polaroid photos of different people holding red bags. Moments later, Slater enters the room, taking some liquid for his vaporizer. He is completely unaware that Frida is hiding under his desk. At that moment, the snake venom begins to affect her, causing her to have a nosebleed and triggering some memories, as she sees herself and the other women tied up and terrified while the men torture them. It is revealed that the snake venom has made Jess remember everything, so Slater orders Stan to kill her. This shocks Frida, and she immediately flees when the billionaire is distracted. She goes straight to Sarah and tells her everything that happened to Jess. Fearing that the same fate will befall them, they decide to continue acting normal until Heather and Camilla regain their memories. Later that night, during dinner, Frida's memories start to flood back. She realizes that the men have been assaulting them every night, and using perfume to erase their memories. It turns out that Lucas was against it, but the other men have been pressuring him and telling him to grow up. Frida also remembers his recent assault on Dr. Rich, and how he was worried that she would remember the incident. But Slater assures him that the worse it gets, the more they forget. This explains why the perverted doctor was so upset and nervous when she recognized him a few days ago. In the present, the disturbing memory makes it difficult for Frida to pretend that everything is okay, including Sarah. But she musters some courage and starts dancing, and Sarah joins her. The others soon follow, and the night seems to have turned into another fun gathering. However, they are surprised by a sudden scream, which turns out to be Camilla's, who has remembered everything. In a fit of rage, she stabs Tom repeatedly and kills him until Slater arrives to restrain her. Heather's memories also return at this point and she begins to haunt Vic inside. Sarah stabs Cody in the arm and tries to attack him further, but he escapes. Meanwhile, Heather catches up to Vic and hits him with a chessboard. She ends up smashing his face, but then the security guard shoots her to death. At that moment, Stan spots Frida in the distance and begins chasing her. She runs into the woods, but he eventually catches up with her and prepares to shoot. Fortunately, Sarah hits him from behind with a huge rock, killing him instantly after hitting him multiple times. Meanwhile, Slater drags a severely injured Vic and a tied-up Camilla to his villa. Lucas, who has been wearing cologne like the girls, doesn't understand what's going on and begins to panic. However, Slater ignores him and stomps on Camilla's neck, causing her to choke and die. Elsewhere, Frida searches for a knife in her room when Stacy arrives, clearly in distress. She realizes that Stacy's memories have returned. However, unlike the others, Stacy is under the influence of the perfume by choice. She claims that forgetfulness is a gift, and angrily accuses Frida of forcing her to remember such painful events. During the struggle, Frida resists and ends up being stabbed in the chest to death. In the woods, Cody searches for the remaining girls under Slater's orders, when Sarah brutally shoots him to death. Meanwhile, Lucas is still confused, not understanding why the girls are acting this way. Sarah, on the other hand, meets Frida, who found a Polaroid photo of herself in the mansion. The surprising thing is that this photo is from a year ago, meaning that Frida has been here before as well. Upon learning this, the girls arm themselves with a knife and a gun, and head out to finish off their tormentors. They soon arrive outside Slater's villa and demand that he open the door. He refuses, but Lucas decides to open it himself, and Sarah promptly shoots him to death, while Slater takes the opportunity to subdue Frida and closes the door. She grabs something to attack him, but he quickly overpowers her. At this moment, Frida remembers what happened a year ago when she tried to escape. She falls on a rock, causing a cut on her face that later turns into a scar. That day, Frida had painted her fingernails with a red rabbit design. She also remembers that she was the one who bit Vic's little finger at that time. In the present, Slater tells a restrained Frida that humanity would be free of suffering and pain if they could forget their traumas. He encourages her to join him, put on some perfume, and leave everything behind. As he continues to bark, Frida calmly begins to free herself with a shard of glass. At that moment, Sarah begins to shoot at the locked door, but she quickly runs out of bullets, prompting Slater to chase after her. He drags her into a room where Frida, who has cut herself free, is holding a knife. Slater confidently grabs her knife, and she fears that he will kill her, but the billionaire says that he will not because she is his best friend. He then inhales from his vape and is about to finish off Sarah. However, he suddenly becomes disoriented, not understanding what he is doing or what is happening. It turns out that while he was out, Frida had soaked his e-cigarette liquid with the same perfume he had created. This causes Slater to collapse, and he ends up knocking over some candles, making the fire worse. The entire villa is soon engulfed in flames, and Frida leaves Vic to die in the room. Once outside, Sarah expresses her hope that Frida knows what she is doing. As the camera pans, we learn that Frida also rescued Slater from the burning villa. In the final scene, some time has passed, and we see Slater's company hosting another party. Dr. Rich approaches him. The doctor wants to meet him alone and discuss something, but Slater seems confused and disoriented. At that moment, Frida intervenes and informs the doctor that Slater will be unavailable. It turns out that she is now married to Slater, and Dr. Rich is nervous when he sees her, especially when the woman claims to remember the doctor. As the movie ends, the host introduces Frida as the new CEO of the company, while dousing Slater with a drug to keep him confused and obedient. Thanks for watching. Bye.